Right, there we go. I think if anybody is slightly late joining us, we can quickly catch up. So before we get started with the session, just a couple of quick housekeeping rules from myself and Eric before we move on to the introductions and the main content of today. We do want to ensure that everybody finds the session valuable and you manage to take away from this afternoon what you need. So therefore, we do ask if you've got any questions for me and Eric as we go through the presentation today and through the webinar today. If you can just use the Q&A section at the bottom of your Zoom to submit any questions. We'll have time for Q&A at the end, and we'll try to get through as many of those questions as we can. And again, thank you all very much for joining myself and Eric this afternoon. We really do appreciate the time people have taken out of their days to be with us. So in terms of who are me and Eric, I think is probably a really good starting on point for everyone today. So my name, for those of you in attendance who maybe aren't familiar with me, I'm Jamie Adams. I look after both our sales here at ProScope, but I'm also a construction industry solutions consultant as well. My background for well over a decade plus now has been in the built environment, both in industry from contracting side and also in the software space, providing software and support to project-based businesses, be that in project management, data structuring, or project accounting type solutions as well. Joined today by Eric, so I'll let Eric quickly introduce himself.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. Appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for everybody for joining in as well. So I'm Eric Myers. I've been working in the NetSuite space for just a little over 15 years as a partner. And previous to that, I was a NetSuite client for about 5 years. So I've been working in that area and have been working serving the construction industry for roughly 5 years. And also have a bit of industry background with worked for a large real estate developer for a couple of years. So happy to have everybody join, and definitely excited to work with you to show you both ProScope and how we and both Fortis and ProScope work together.
Thank you very much, Eric. So in terms of the agenda, well, we've got a couple of points that we want to make sure we cover today. So we're going to start off looking at the current construction landscape and really how that has an impact on ensuring people are paid and paid on time from clients. You know, there's a range of challenges in the marketplace currently that impact on that. So we're going to begin by talking around that a little bit. We are, and I appreciate that any quantity surveyors or estimators with us in the audience today might laugh at this, but we are, of course, going to talk about the dreaded spreadsheet. We all know that they're a necessary evil in this space. Bit of a spoiler for what's coming later, that is until now. And also we're going to talk about how spreadsheets and that reliance on Excel can impact on projects, on payments, and ultimately on the bottom line for construction businesses. We're going to talk a little bit about what does it mean to have a single source of truth, and more specifically, what does that mean for construction companies? And again, how does it feed into us reducing those days outstanding and getting client payments quickly, on time, promptly? And then myself and Eric are going to spend a little bit of time jumping into the software to have a quick introductory overview of how both solutions work, but more importantly, how both solutions work when it comes to getting paid quickly and getting paid on time. So that's kind of a brief agenda, but let's start quickly with who are ProScope and who are Fortis as well. So why should you trust me and Eric today? Well, as I say, ProScope, we as a business, we are a NetSuite partner. We've been in the ERP space for a very long time now, probably 18 plus years. But what's really important about ProScope is that it's a native solution to NetSuite. So it's built and deployed directly into the NetSuite software. What that means is you get all of the benefits of the world's #1 cloud ERP solution with best of breed project management and operations management tools as well. It does provide a truly unrivaled scope of what it covers. It's truly end-to-end for the project lifecycle, as you can see from this diagram here. It's going to take us all the way from estimating and job costing right through to when we begin our prelims and getting on site, our procurement, our subcontract management, handling anything like change requests, application for payment, retentions, AIA billing. So of course, today we're going to speak about things like G702 and G703. In terms of the scope of the solution, we're used multiple industries in the built environment in multiple countries. In terms of the actual product itself, what's really interesting is we continue to invest and develop the ProScope solution on a regular basis. And that investment and that development is led by our customer advisory board. So that is industry professionals, leaders in their field, who we meet with on a regular basis to feed into both the product functionality and the future roadmap of the product development, but also ensuring that we're abreast of all the global legislation and legislation changes that happen to keep the product current and relevant for our customers. And it does also allow us to do something very clever in our approach, and that is the solution's modular. So it can be designed to fit any business of any size or scale. We work with people from pre-revenue startups in the energy space right through to $300, $400, $500 million businesses running truly global operations. But it's not a one size fits all. It's tailored and designed to bring value to every client's specific needs, which is very unique with our modular approach. And in terms of who those clients are, so we are a truly global organization. We have clients globally, everywhere from the UK and Europe, as you can probably tell by my accent, right through to North America, Central America, the UAE and South Africa as well. But we've got 5,000 plus users on a monthly basis in platform, over 10 regions that our install base covers. What's a number that always staggers me every time I hear it is that we've got over $1.5 billion of projects being traded in the platform over the last 12 months, and that number just continues to grow. And again, we're processing 1 million plus transactions per month as well. And I think that's what's led to us working with a lot of clients who very much are growing businesses. We work with a company in Europe called Ashtead Technologies, who are growing their organization very rapidly through acquisition. And that deployment of the NetSuite ProScope solution allows them to easily acquire new companies, bring them into platform, and continue to grow and drive their operations forward seamlessly whenever they make an acquisition. Again, similar to people like Aldous Fire in the US, who are rapidly expanding their fire protection and installation business. And again, ProScope's allowing them to standardize those processes, streamline their operations, and ensure that when it comes to getting paid by clients, they're getting paid from them quickly, on time, and accurately as well. Because as we'll all know, when it comes to kind of application for payment process, getting paid the right amount is just as important as getting paid that amount quickly. I'm going to hand to Eric now to introduce Fortis, because he's going to be much more adept in telling you about Fortis and what they do.
Thanks, Jamie. So Fortis, much like ProScope, we've been around for a while. We've got about 20 years that we've been working directly with NetSuite, with technology back to NetSuite around 2004. We provide, what we have up there is, we say it's everything that you need for successful payment processing in NetSuite. So what you'll see today in NetSuite, we do have a lot of good functionality there, but we do provide a lot of value adds behind the scenes to make you successful for that. And we, one of the things that we mentioned in there is we're dedicated to payments innovation. We are continually developing our product, much like ProScope does, and continuing to develop, within the NetSuite world, so we can provide a unified and integrated experience inside of NetSuite. So if you can go to the next slide, Jamie. One of our biggest innovations that we've come up with lately is moving out of just the payment processing area and moving into more of the accounts receivable automation space. So we do have an offering that we refer to as AR Post. An AR Post is going beyond payments and providing a lot of the information that we see for the construction industry in terms of doing collections, getting additional invoices to people. Construction gets complex, a lot of different moving pieces, and being able to follow with them and have one integrated place where you can see all of the information you need for for following up with your customers. You can go on to the next one too, Jamie. And then just our overall, our value that for customers inside of NetSuite and the construction industry is really, two things that we focus on. One is we believe we can save you money from moving from, other payment processors or even doing manual payments. And the second thing is we believe that we can save you time. So being able to move through and provide not only all the complexities of, if you've got your AI building or your retention or any of those items that have come through, but really giving that, solid customer experience at the end where it's time to pay the bills by providing them ease and efficiency in doing that. Then also additionally, your back office staff. So being able to provide our payment reconciliation functionality that can save your back office teams a lot of time. So that's what I've got for that. Jamie, you can go on over and start talking a little bit more about the integrated solution.
Perfect, brilliant. So as I alluded to today in terms of this conversation, why are we here today? Well, the current construction landscape is pretty interesting at the moment. We've seen that, and this will be the same for those of you in attendance, but some of the things that we've really seen is that a large percentage of budgets in projects, 69% of projects, experience budget creep of at least 10%. And when you look at the reasoning behind why this is happening, it really comes down to this disjointed nature and silo nature that so many construction firms operate in. And some of the outputs of this are really, really damaging for businesses. The fact that only 15% of construction firms are reporting that they get paid in full. And some of these companies, 67% of these companies are relying on cash in the bank every day due to those long DSO type projects. So many companies say that, their number one priority is around accuracy and estimating and materials and equipment purchasing. But then again, they continue to operate in silos. They continue to operate in things like Excel, where the data is historic. And given that the plan and the view moving forward is that the price increases that we've seen over the last 4 years, 5 years since COVID are going to continue, we can only assume that this is going to start to have a serious impact on an industry that is already struggling when it comes to time, when it comes to the amount of resources available in the industry, the fact that there's an aging workforce, and that these businesses are already operating on tight budgets and tight margins. And what I always find very alarming about this, and the next slide I move on to really highlights this point, is that in the 10 years that I've been working in the industry, it hasn't really changed. It's only got worse. But I don't think this is just exclusive to construction, Eric, and maybe you can expand on this a little bit, but I imagine you guys see this in different sectors as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's one of the areas that we see both for, especially like you said, for the past few years, increasing costs, but especially this past year. I actually just had a conversation with a CFO this past, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, and they were looking at implementing surcharging for their payments. And when they previously had not been doing it, when I asked, asked her about why she wanted to do that, she basically just said, our cost of of all of our costs are increasing so much that we're just looking to see to make sure that we can put a buffer in for as many costs as we can moving forward. So I think it's something that's not only, been in effect since COVID, but in 2025, something that a lot of finance executives are very mindful of.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point you raise, Eric. It's not just since COVID. I mean, McKinsey and Partners conducted a survey in 2015 that showed, just looking at construction in general, that the state of digitalization in construction was pretty much at the bottom of the chart. The only thing that came below it is agriculture and hunting, which isn't really an industry I typically think of as being quite digital. But what's alarming with this is we're now 10 years later on, and if you look at the McKinsey report from 2024, construction is still the second least digitalized sector. Um, we've not improved. We've not got better. It's one of the worst industries for adopting digitalization, but yet it employs 7% of the world's working population globally. It's staggering the disproportion. And what you can see when you look at digitalization in construction, whether it has been digitalized, it's all front-end project. It's all around digital twins, building information modeling, um, the design phase and the specification phase. Nobody is focusing their digital spend, their disproportionately low digital spend on the things that really matter: transactions, interactions, and workers, the collaboration and the communication that allows them to get paid. So it's hard to not look at this and think, why are we not adopting change that the market predicts could increase productivity by 15% and reduce cost by 6% when we're already struggling with a workforce and industry? Why are we not digitalizing to make our lives easier and ultimately improve margin, improve gross margin, and improve our payments and getting paid on time?
Yeah, Jamie, one of the areas I've seen quite a bit, working with the ProScope team, is that I feel like you guys have been a little bit ahead of the curve in terms of being able to get out and have a mobile, the ability to work mobily. Because I think that's, what I've seen is one of the areas that specifically in construction that people struggle with is like, if I'm not connected, how can I do this? So being able to work in a mobile environment and work with payments and make it convenient for people when they're out in the field is actually, one of the things that we're seeing the biggest interest in this past year.
Yeah, that's very true. And that continues to be the same with the conversations I'm having. I met with a potential client in the Middle East actually just today, and a big focus for them is, some of the sites they're working on are remote, but how do we, with an offline mobile solution, get our guys on site able to easily track what they're doing, where our progress is, so that the guys back at office can accurately bill every month. It's truly vital. And it is for us, it's about simplifying every step of that process for people. But it does, unfortunately, it does mean that the industry in general is still plagued by this endemic of spreadsheets. And I'm not going to sit here and say that spreadsheets are bad, because they certainly have a place in the world, and in the construction world as well. But sometimes it's just about how do we make that process better for all parties involved. If I'm an estimator, my estimator sheet probably does need to be complex because of the sheer size of the bill of materials that I might be building up. But it's then, how do I communicate all of that downstream with the people who need that information? If I'm an estimator, I want to be able to estimate quickly. My spreadsheet provides me with that accessibility. It's user friendly. Everybody's used to using it. So how do we begin to systemize that to provide downstream benefits, to stop duplicate entries in multiple departments, to stop procurement not knowing what our buyouts are until it's too late? How do we ensure that the data that comes out of this is structured? Flexibility is great for one person in their silo, but across an organization, we all need to be able to sing from the same hymn sheet so that we can ensure that we are making data-driven decisions when it comes to our business and to our organization. And we need to make sure that it's accessible for individuals, whatever their role and function is, not just the project team. But the impact of all of this siloed information, the impact of all of this being passed from one person to another, to another, to another on emails or text messages or WhatsApp, or I've seen all 3 years as a primary project comms till when I worked in industry, whatever it may be, the bottom line of this is that it takes longer to produce a bill. How do we generate a G702 if we don't know what work we've completed, if we don't know what we're claiming for until 3 weeks, 4 weeks after the fact? And the longer it takes us to raise our application, the later we are in sending it out, and then the longer our DSO is. The other thing, of course, if we're all working in silos, how do we ensure that we can evidence that the work we're applying for is aligned to the project actuals? How do we ensure that any change requests, compensation events, variations of scope, how do we ensure they're all in there, accurately costed and are being passed to our client? And how do we ensure that final accounts payments are easy to track? If we're having retention or retainage deducted on each of these, each milestone, how are we tracking that if it's in a spreadsheet? How do our colleagues in finance and in accounting know, right, I need to go back to client A and I need to request that this retention is released because of design liability periods ended? It's a real challenge for people, and it really comes from this silos making it harder and harder for us to get paid. Um, I think, Eric, it would be good to understand from your perspective as well what impact that has on people getting billed and paid on time, really.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a lot of times when we're working with, if we're working in the construction industry and, specifically with ProScope, I feel like we kind of get the easy part because we just get to make it simple for someone to come in and after you guys have done all the retainage calculations and all the complex things that's going to end up being in that invoice. And we get to sort of take it I call it the last 5 yards, but they're very important yards in the respect of getting the invoice clearly out to the customer, then giving them the alternatives of how they are going to be paying it. One of the biggest things that is also affecting payments over the past few years is just different payment modalities. So, one customer that we have been working with, absolutely wants to provide every payment option possible for somebody to pay it. Not as much, you're not going to be using, Apple Pay or anything like that for somebody in the construction industry is, one of the things you might think. But when you start to see about how, credit card payments and ACH payments start to get actually integrated into convenience like Google Pay and Apple Pay, all of a sudden it becomes much more relevant. So being able to have different ways that customers can pay and, simple ways for customers to pay, it becomes very, very impactful because that's how, the project keeps rolling.
Yeah, I think that's a really valid point. I love that 5 yard comment because really when it gets to raising that application and getting paid, it is that, to use a football analogy, we're in the red zone, delivering our
Yep.
project at that point's been a really strong 80-yard drive, but we don't then want to go and fumble the ball and turn it over at the last minute.
Yeah, and especially when you guys, because I know one of the things you can work with is having different equipment and everything there, and the reality of the situation is sometimes we need to make sure that the latest invoice is paid before we can dispatch new resources to a complex project.
And that's exactly it. That's why this single source of truth is so important, because there is so many moving parts on these projects. that impact both revenue and cost and impact our cash flow, you know. So it's really important that our estimating is directly tied up and linked into our planning and resource. You know, using your example there, we might be 3 months into a project where we need to bring in some heavy equipment. We need to ensure that we haven't got so many payments outstanding that we're not in a cash flow position to do that. It could well be as well. We've spoken about the labor shortage. So again, having this single source of truth allows us to look at our internal labor over the next 12, 18, 24, 36 months, depending on the length of our projects, and begin to balance that load and begin to take decisions on whether or not we can deliver these projects self-deliver. Do we need to bring in our subcontractors and bring our subcontractors in and make sure we've got the relevant certification and the relevant people available to us? Our procurement, again, you know, all of these things when we're billing milestone after milestone on a progress basis, all of these things are directly tied to that last 5 yards, to use what Eric said earlier. So how do we make sure our procurement plan is directly linked to our project, to our contractors, to our health and safety? And then how does all of this come together to feed into our billing and payments by making sure that there's no duplicate entries, that we can drive the amount we're claiming for by real data, real-time project information, that we can understand what outstanding payments and retentions exist in our projects, so that it allows us to be paid quicker. It allows us to be paid more frequently because we can raise applications in an easier way. And it results in less queries due to us being able to trust that data. It's really about making life easier for our accounts receivable team and our accounts payable teams and our finance colleagues when it comes to money in and money out for these projects. And I think that's the really important thing about us having a single source of truth across these projects. It's getting us paid quickly. I don't know, Eric, if there's anything you would like to add at this point, really, on this one.
No, I think you've nailed it. Like we said, it's the, making it ease of use, not only for, getting the invoices out, but then for the people that paid them. And then, making sure that everything's clear and that you have visibility into what needs to be addressed.
Perfect, brilliant. So what does all this look like then? Before we jump into the project, the kind of product overview part of this session, just a really quick reminder here, the platform and this single source of truth, it needs to cover every area of our project lifecycle, from our estimate and our costing, from our HSAQ and our environmental sustainability and governance type processes. It needs to cover our subcontractors and our change management, our reporting. It needs to cover our planning and resourcing, our AIA, our payment applications, our retentions, and our inventory. And it really is a truly circular process. Everything depends on everything else. So let's jump into both ProScope and jump into Fortis, and let's have a look at exactly how this works in practice to ensure that we get paid quickly, easily, and on time. So for those on the call who are existing NetSuite users, what we're looking at now is going to look very familiar. For those who aren't NetSuite users, this is what your typical NetSuite dashboard is going to look like. They're highly customizable, highly configurable. I've got the ability to log in with a range of different roles and permissions that have been assigned to me. For our time together this afternoon, I'm going to log in as an administrator just so I can show some different areas of the platform to everyone. But the idea behind this dashboard is to ensure that everybody who's involved in a project has the information that they need available to them at their fingertips at a touch of a button. So we've spoken a lot today about payments, but payments is an output of the entire project process. And full disclosure for everybody in attendance today, I'm not going to take you through an entire project because we wouldn't have enough time today to do that. But we're going to look at some key stages in that project to understand how all that information comes together to get built and how it then feeds into all of these different reports that we're looking at today. But the big report that I want to highlight at this point for everybody, before we jump into some more of the functionality and the features, is just my over and under build report. We're talking a lot about getting paid on time, but we also need to say where our position is as well in relation to our construction in progress balance, see where our delta is. If we take this project here, PRJ 188 as an example, our delta is pretty severe on this project. So we know that when our next application comes, we've got a gap to close, and we know that it's a priority for us to close that gap quickly to get back on track with our billing schedule. So what does that kind of look like in practice? Well, if I'm working on a project day in, day out, all of the actions that I need are available to me directly from my dashboard, just at the touch of a button. So if I want to, I can go and launch our project portal, which will allow me to estimate, allow me to budget, allow me to add cost. I can go and approve costs on my project. I can go buy and source materials. Important button for today's conversation, I can go away and bill my customers directly from here. I can view all of my cost transactions, all of my open purchase orders, and all of my open purchase orders and all of my transactions in general that are related to this project. So if I go into a project and I go and view a project, I can see here, just really quickly at a glance, where my project's performing against my allocated work and my planned work, where I am in these different stages of my project. And also, I can begin to see key financials for all of the work and the activities that make up my project. I've had a slight cost overrun, it seems, on one of my divisions of labour here. So I might need to get that back in check later on in this project. But I can see really quickly at a glance where I'm at with everything in terms of what my budget was, what my planned cost was, so what I plan to procure to deliver this project, what my committed cost is from all of my open purchase orders, what my actual cost is as well, and what my estimated amount is to complete. And I can slice and dice all of this information in whatever way I need to, be that, my billing summary if I want to, so I can see here what my estimated revenue is, what my planned revenue is. More importantly, how much of this revenue have I got? How much is Eric and the team at Fortis helped me reclaim back from my clients? All of this information is just here for me at a click of a button. But how do we get to that kind of position where we're in a position to actually go and bill out a project? Well, the easiest way we do that is by going into our project portal. So it might be day one and we've just begun tendering for this project and we want to go and build up an estimate for this project. So we can just very quickly begin to do this from our division of labour. We can assign the relevant product families, cost codes. The platform's automatically going to bring this information in for me from my item library. So, I might have something that I need to add within my concreting. I may need to go away and add some materials to this. And I just need to specify my quantity. So I need 300 for whatever particular material it is I'm adding at a cost price of $100 per unit. And my target margin on these projects is going to be 20%. What that's going to do is it's going to quickly update my estimate for me. It's going to show me what my total cost is for my project, and my total revenue is going to be for that project as well. Now, we spoke earlier a lot about Excel, and we know that Excel spreadsheets can be really, really valuable and powerful for estimators. So we're not saying that those spreadsheets have to go away. What we're saying is bring them into platform, and there's a couple of ways we can do that. So we can either import these directly to bring our budget into platform as our starting position, just by using the import button. Or we do also have the ability within the platform. Sorry, I'm just going to move this bar out of my way. We do also have the ability within the platform as well, if you need to, or if you want to, where you can actually begin to estimate using our inbuilt sheet style estimator as well. So again, just at a click of a button, as with everything we've spoken about today, I can click a button and I can go away. And I've actually brought my spreadsheet that I use as a quantity surveyor or an estimator. I've brought that into platform. So for all of my estimating colleagues on the call today, this is going to look very familiar. I can work directly in here in Excel as I would, but I've got the benefit of system control. It's pulling my past purchase prices through automatically. It's pulling my preferred vendors through. It's pulling my cost codes and my activities. Everything's coming from system to give us more accuracy, more visibility. Once we save this, we've got visibility to our colleagues in finance who can begin forecasting and planning, budgeting. We know that the schedule for this project is going to result in X cost at X period and X revenue at X period. So as I said at the start, spreadsheets are a necessary evil, and we're not saying you have to get rid of them. What we're saying is there's multiple different ways to bring those into platform for us to establish our budget, for us to begin to establish our requisitions as well on our project, to begin to establish our procurement. We can bring everybody into one place at one time. That's how we build up cost. We're not going to today look at how we run our projects. So for the purpose of this, we're going to imagine that we've been on site for a couple of months. We've procured some materials. We've done some work. We've done some labor. We've got to the point where our first milestone's being reached and we need to go out and build this project. Again, I'm going to feel like a bit of a broken record to people, but again, if we want to bill our customer, we're just going to use our quick actions button, give that a click, and straight away, we're in the position where we can begin to raise our application and complete our G702 and G703 paperwork. And this is pulling all of this information for us live from system. We can see what our revenue is. We can see what we've built to date. We can see any store material costs. We can see what our completion percentage is, and we can just make changes as and when we need to apply these to our application. So if I take this project delay as an example, and we can say that we're 100% of the way through that, we're not 1,000% through it. You can see there, it updates a cost, it's updated our application total, it's updated our retention that's being held on the project. We can just click a button, that'll go away, and that will automatically create that application for payment for us. So what does that look like in real world terms? Well, if I just go into an application that I raised earlier on, so we can go into an application here, and we can see that within this, what it's done is it's gone away and it's created for us it's gone away and it's created for us our AIA style application. And I realize that this is just open on my other screen, so let me just move this over here. So that's gone away for us and it's created our AIA style application, our G702 form. It's going to be really familiar to everyone. All we then need to do, issue that to our client, get the amount certified, and then we can come back into platform and at a click of a button, raise an invoice. And at that point, the invoice has gone out. It's time for Eric and the guys at Fortis to ensure that we get paid. So I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to hand to Eric to show what happens with that invoice once it's been raised to minimize our DSL.
Absolutely. Share my screen out. All right, so much like ProScope, as you guys can see, this is just logging into a NetSuite. Much like just like ProScope as well, we are, like I said, we are native to NetSuite, so all of our records are going to be exposed as well, so you can see them integrated into all the dashboards and reporting. A couple of things that I'll show you here. One would be everything, keeping track of all the successful payments. Also making yourself aware of invoices that are outstanding or anything that needs to be paid. And one of the things that we differentiate ourselves from with other payment providers is that we do have the ability to actually work not only with invoices, but also with sales orders or estimates. So for example, if you got an estimate in the field and you actually want to get it out to somebody to make sure we're going to kick off, to approve the estimate, we can work with that. And I'm actually going to work with that today. I'm going to go through and act as if we're going to be actually kicking off a project. So if we've got a sales order, and in this case, we've got a sales order for a project retainer, so we can go ahead and initiate a project. What I can do is just go through and highlight this transaction. So in this case, we do have a sales order that we'll take a deposit off of. And what we do here at Fortis, like I said, is we try and make it real easy for people to make payments. So this is what we refer to internally as pay link. NetSuite, other people call it link to pay. But what we're going to do is just provide a nice, easy link to pay for a customer to do this off of a sales order, off of an estimate, off of an invoice, or we can actually provide that off of a statement as well. So if you have a customer who wants to come in and pay off, multiple invoices to keep things moving forward. And what we'll do is we just click this. Before I click it, one thing that we've also seen lately is, especially if you're out in the field, a lot of people like to put QR codes in here. So everything that we're going to provide for that is completely configurable off of customer requirements. So if you actually want to deliver a deliver an invoice to somebody in the field, give them a QR code so they can just scan it and pay it right there on their phone. They can do that. So when I go ahead and click this, this is going to take us out to our payment page. So as you can see, we're going to have, basically the ability to go through and pay this. If the customer needs to download the PDF or anything like that, they can go through and do that. And we'll just go through and pay this. Now, one thing I want to highlight for you is that one of the use cases I mentioned before is that we've seen a lot of interest lately in the ability to use surcharging or charging customers a convenience for using their credit cards. Everybody likes to use everybody likes to use their favorite credit card to get points or miles or whatever they have you. But at the end of the day, that does pass on a cost to the customer to the people that it's collecting those funds. So when I go through to pay this, we're going to have a couple different options of how we would like to pay this. And the first one that people most normally think of when we're talking about using credit card payments is a credit card. And so I can go through and use my saved credit card number that I have in my Google Pay there. Or if I want to provide ACH payment details. So one of the largest trends that we've seen lately is that customers are also moving to encouraging people to pay with ACH, just for simplicity, as well as saving some money when you're actually processing your payments. So what we're going to do is we're going to pay this sales deposit today with a credit card. And when we do a surcharge, one of the things that we need to be very conscious of is here in the United States, there are different regulations around where you can apply a surcharge and where that surcharge can be applied. If you notice, when I populated my zip code here, I'm going to use my billing address in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is where I am. North Carolina is a state that allows for surcharging. So if I go ahead and validate that through the Fortis system, it's going to go ahead and put the surcharge on there. And we also have some information here, so we can say, hey, we're going to be assessing a 3% surcharge on that for credit card purchases only. So if this customer chooses to use a debit card, or if they flip over to our ACH functionality, they're not going to have to use that. Oops, sorry about that. Now, additionally, though, if I use that, use my credit card number here, and let's say I validate off of a separate zip code. So Connecticut is one of the places in the United States where I am not allowed to use a surcharge. So what you'll see is when I go ahead and use the billing address off of a Connecticut address, is that will remove any surcharges from this. So I'll go ahead and do this again. And so what I'm going to do now is actually just go through and process this payment with the surcharge on that. And after I process that payment, I've got a receipt, and that receipt is a configurable option. So if I want to have that emailed off to my customer as soon as they pay that, we can have that. And we'll be able to have that processed. So one of the other things that we like to show is in terms of when we work through that is when I provided that payment, there's essentially two invoices that will get created when I use a surcharge. One of the invoices is that the customer will be a customer facing invoice, and it allows that customer to clear out their AR so we can move forward with the project. And then we actually create internally another invoice. And the reason that we do that is to be compliant for how you want to handle all of the reporting of your surcharges. So it'll be another item. And as you guys, if you use NetSuite, an item can have any GL implications that you want for it. So we'll have that separately that wouldn't be visible to the customer. So they can then understand where our surcharges are, report off those different surcharges, and work through that. So now that we've had that applied, the payment has just been able to be processed, and we'll get notification on inside of NetSuite that we're free to move forward with the project. So that's just quick and easy payment inside of NetSuite. So I think now we're going to move on to Q&A. Am I correct, Jamie?
We certainly are. We certainly are. And I think we've already had a few questions come in as well.
Awesome.
We have. So the first question that's come in is, how do we create an estimate in ProScope?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it's one that I think we would need to follow up with you outside of this webinar for, because we don't really have time to go through that today on this session. So Christine, if you could share the details with me after this, I'll certainly reach out to the person who's asked that question to do that, to follow up. But there's a few ways at a high level we can do that, either using the Excel style, sheet style estimator that we looked at. We can build an estimate there. We can build an estimate via cost codes from the portal that we looked at, or we can do it directly in a kind of a buyout and import manner as well. So there's a few different ways for us to build that estimate up in platform.
Okay, next question. I think this is one for you, Eric. What is PayLink? Is it an extra add-on?
Oh yeah, good question. So I mentioned PayLink, both the slide at the beginning, and then I also mentioned it when I went through to process the sales order deposit. And PayLink is our feature that basically takes that link and puts it inside of the transaction. So whether or not that's going to be an estimate, sales order, or invoice, or like I said, on the statements as well. And that's the configurable option that we can also put a QR code on. And that comes with our platform. So we have one flat fee that covers all of our functionality, so that we can make it convenient for different customers to pay with the different methods that they would like.
Okay, great. Next question. What does AI look like for construction industry / construction software?
Now that's a good question, and this is probably something me and Eric could speak to everybody in attendance about for the next 5 hours if you let us go through. But I think for me personally, for us at ProScope, what AI looks like for construction is taking what is very high volumes of data and simplifying that into actionable insight, allowing project managers and the exec to see very easily and early on what the risk on our projects are, what the upside and opportunities on our projects are, and being able to course correct early in the process to protect gross margin, gross profit, and minimize schedule delays. I think for me, that's what AI in construction is really going to look like, is getting more projects built on time, on budget.
Yep.
Okay. We already have NetSuite. Is there a charge to get started with FortisPay?
Okay. Yeah. Good question. So yeah, if you do have NetSuite, we do, I think I mentioned before, we do actually have a monthly bundle fee that we charge. But we really try to do, two things with that. One is we try to reduce the cost that you're currently incurring for processing transactions. And the majority of our customers are usually able to save money, including our monthly fees compared to what they were paying before. And so we see, most of our customers see significant value, not only in the ability to save money for processing payments, but also from the ability for their back office team to save time, getting all those payments reconciled.
Okay, thank you. Jamie, what does the ProScope implementation process look like, and how long does it typically take to get up and running?
It's a really good question. So one of the beauties of ProScope is it doesn't matter if you're buying NetSuite for the first time or you've been in NetSuite for 10 years. We can implement the product at any point in your NetSuite journey. In terms of what that looks like, it's going to be very similar to your NetSuite implementation in that we're going to run a very structured methodology. We've got a lot of experience in implementing in this space now, so we're going to run a very structured methodology, working closely with your subject matter experts to ensure we're capturing all of those key processes, all of those key reports, and all of the key documents that you need from a project's perspective. In terms of delivery, we would normally say 16 weeks from contract signature to go live isn't unreasonable. But a lot of that, as with any software implementation, is going to be driven by how responsive you are as a client and what your resource availability is like as a client.
Okay, thank you. And then the final question that's been posted into the chat, for you, Eric, I have slow paying customers. How can I make it easier for them to pay closer to due dates?
Yeah, that's a great question that we hear quite a bit. It's one simple thing that we use quite a bit is the invoice alerts that I showed in the dashboard. So keeping an alert, so just so you can have that, and then also getting reminders over to your customers. So being able to have that just completely integrated and a reminder on that is something that we see actually great success with our customers, and making sure that their customers have that. It's just another symptom of where we are in 2025, that everybody's doing so many things that a lot of times you just get them that invoice reminder or a message over to them, and it's like, oh yeah, hey, sorry about that. And then additionally, one thing that we have that is very complementary to what ProScope does is we are actually able to set people up on recurring payments, what we refer to as either auto pay or recurring billing. So again, it's taking all of the complex things that have happened and then providing reporting so that customers can come in and say, hey, we acknowledge that you're going to store our payment method in NetSuite. We acknowledge that we're going to go ahead and authorize you to pay that on a recurring basis. And then we can provide reporting. So if you've got 10 customers and only 7 of them have signed up, you can actually reach out to those other 3 customers and say, figure out a way to get them on that recurring payment, or understand really what their payment needs are. So.
And I think just to add to that, Eric, where ProScope and Fortis become really powerful in the construction space is around that recurring payments for companies who are renting equipment to projects. Yep. Being able to just ensure that every week, once that invoice goes out, your customers are paying promptly for your assets that are out on site. I think that's just a beautiful illustration of how the 2 products work hand in hand together.
Yeah, and I know that rentals is something that is pretty unique to being able to be solved by ProScope. So that's obviously something that we always want to be able to, like I said, take it over those last 5 yards.
Very, very much so. And here's to hoping that the Las Vegas Raiders can do a bit better in the red zone this upcoming season and in the draft for me as a Raiders fan.
Absolutely.
Any other questions for us in chat, Christine, or is that all?
No, that's all of the questions.
Excellent. Well, in that case, I'd just like to take this opportunity, first of all, to thank Eric for agreeing to present and spend some time with me this afternoon. And also to say a massive thank you to everybody who was in attendance today and has joined us. The recording of the session will be shared normally within a couple of days after the session. If anybody does have any questions, though, please do feel free to reach out to myself and Eric via either LinkedIn or email. We're happy to answer any questions you have and arrange any follow-up sessions be that a call with both of us to pick our brains one-to-one, or if you want to spend a little bit more time diving into both products, just let me and Eric know, and we'd be more than happy to set up that call and help you guys out.
Always a pleasure to see you, Jamie.
Likewise.
All right.